Even more Necron kits.
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Ron Bear from SpikyBits.com, and we are unboxing and building the rest of the Necron releases. So, I guess there's only 2 Cryptex and the flayed ones left for everything that's been previewed, at least so far, from Games Workshop. Now, I suspect some of those are going to have something to do with that new Kill Team teaser, and they're going to kind of lock that content behind a bigger box bundle paywall for a little while, and then release them separately, usually about a year or so down the road. But either way, there's more coming. We just don't know exactly when or in what format. But for the most part, it seems like the Necron release is pretty much rounded up with these items right here, right? So we've got the Convergence of Dominion, which is their new terrain piece. Everybody seems to be getting a terrain piece, or something you can put in your army. The Hexmark Destroyer, which was actually a release a week or 2 ago. They're already sold out at Games Workshop site, but I just didn't want to do a video just on that, so I was like, I know this stuff's coming out in a couple weeks, so we'll just bundle it all together. And the Ophydian Destroyers, which are very interesting design-wise, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So the Ophidians are $55 US, which kind of follows along with their whole pricing schema of 3 elite troop box sets. They're generally about $50, but because it's got that extra deuter, I don't know, they put it at 55. Maybe it's price increase, I don't know. Hexmark Destroyer is 35, of course, independent character. That's their new benchmark, $35. Boom. And then you've got the Convergence of Dominion, $60, same as the Hammerfall Bunker. So it looks like the terrain pieces are going for about $60 in the GW world of pricing. Dun dun dun. We could fill a whole video about why or who, what, when. But either way, you can always get your hobbies for less from dicehead.com, Amazon, or hopefully your local game store that can discount up to 15%. So let's dive into one of these, unbox it, and keep on moving through them all. All right, first up is going to be the Convergence of Dominion. This is a 2-sprue kit, if I recall correctly. Let's see. Yep, 2 sprues, and they're big chunky sprues. Look at that. That's some chunky plastic right there. So 2 exactly the same sprues that are, I think, oh yeah, they are. They're push fit. That's interesting. So you got the slot and the groove right there, just like the new terrain. They seem to be very similar. Let's take a look at the instruction manual and see what's up. So you've got part E3, and E3 goes together, and then you put this little bit on here to, I guess, make it different. Okay. So it's a different backside. E1 goes together, and this looks like the fully rocked formation one, and it's got a little power globe at the top. Oh, it's very similar to that. Okay, so they all have that little power globe. That one didn't. Maybe it's because it's big and chunky. And then the last one is where it's broken down. The rock has broken down, and you can see the majority of the mechanical surface underneath. And then it looks like another way you can get variants is choice of parts on the base that you put them on. So it looks like 2 halves and 1 whole. So, and you can put them on the front or the back. Apparently, they just lock in there. They've all got those little rectangles that slot in there. So, I imagine this is going to go together pretty well. Let's find out. Well, I love it when a plan comes together. So this took it literally took longer to clip it out than to actually assemble it. It is push fit, but it isn't a super snug fit. So I went ahead and used some glue on it and then actually glued it down to this base right here. So in some ways it is ETB push fit, but in a lot of ways it's really not. You're still going to probably need to glue it. There's big chunky bits of sprue and flash on the sides because it's down that plane, so you are going to need to clean those up, and they still will show like they're still there, but that's nice and flat, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. And there's that optional rock piece that you can glue on here to kind of break up the profile a bit so it's not identical to the other side. It kind of makes sense. So size wise, I mean, you're talking, these are pretty big. Like, that's the Scorpec Lord. This is Necron Warrior. Once again, wondering, what am I doing here? Everything in this army is so much bigger than me. I don't know. And the Overlord, again, got that big old blade. Pretty dope. So nice chunky piece of terrain here. That's I think at least semi-useful with the Cryptex, but obviously there's 3 of them. I didn't put all of them together because, well, I got some other stuff to do here in a second. Speaking of which, let's jump to the next kit. The Ophydian Destroyers. So wow, when I saw the previews for this, I was like, hey, those look like the old Wraith models, which they kind of do. If you haven't seen the old metal Wraith models from back in the day, like circa 2002, 2003, they had this crazy long pewter tail like this, and then they just had a bunch of, you know, it basically looked just like this, except for it had some little T-Rex, baby T-Rex arms, and that's it. That's literally what this is. So if they didn't put those big old flayed one blades and whatever these things are on all the Destroyer models now, these literally would be basically Wraiths, which is kind of cool for them to come back and do it and make something different and not name it quite the same, you know, because obviously Wraiths have their own kit. They're big, they're chunky. We did a conversion video on how to make them look like scorpions, which I thought was pretty cool. It's super easy to do, so look for that here on the channel too. Sprue wise, it looks like there's 3 little mini sprues that comprise up each one. Are they separate? Nope, because all the torsos are right there. So, you know, at least construction wise, you're gonna have to use all these sprues and can't break them apart. But they've got, unfortunately, they're on the plane of the sprue, so you are gonna have to trim them up. Although it doesn't, yeah, because there are detail on both sides. So this isn't quite the easier to build that I've been going on about, how I like the new design kind of philosophy from Games Workshop. But they're, you know, this is your typical multi-part kind of build. So there's your 3 sprues. You're going to get 3 50 mils and a 32 for the little, I think that's a plasma sight. They don't come out and say it, but it is right there. Then you can choose one of the torsos for your assembly adventure and then go on with your bad self. This looks pretty simple. It looks like the claw arms have a separate talon, and then there's big old blade thingies go on the side, and then choice of head. Oh, there's 6 different heads. That's pretty neat. A little segment torso section for their little wraithy tail, their little spine that you have to assemble and then lock in right there. I hope that's chunky enough. And then it looks like the left and right half, or top and bottom half, go together right there. And then you've got a little tail bit on the piece of terrain. Same deal here. Tail bit locks in a little bit closer to the bottom piece on terrain. And then that assembles to the terrain bit. And same thing over here for the most part. So it looks like they all go together relatively the same, except for this one has 2 different armor carapaces. Oh, they all do. Okay, cool. Seems like a pretty straightforward build. Let's see how easy it really is. So I went ahead and built the plasma sight too, because he's kind of different from the one that comes in the box set. He's kind of doing his ghost walk there across some or hot stepping across some rubble, and he's got the little dangler out in front of him like a crazy robot angler fish or something. I don't know what that's about, but. And then this guy right here, yeah, definitely, I definitely getting a Wraith, OG Wraith vibe from him. Like I said, if he didn't have all this and he had his little T-Rex baby claw arms, I'd be like, oh, that's totally a Wraith in plastic. But here we are right now. Everything goes together pretty well. Like this, you can't even tell where the seam was. I used a super thin Tamiya glue. This stuff is great. Very good for models, you know, big and small. Put the whole monolith together with this. Definitely put this guy together with this. No big deal right there. Just knocked it out. Now, if you don't like all this terrain, like how it kind of blends in with the base, you can always use some of this Liquitech resin sand, which I think is really, really great stuff, and it keeps for a while, especially if you put it in a little baggie. And I've showed you this before, but these are resin bits that you can't even tell are resin bits. They look like they're part of the base because I use that resin sand all around it. This is for my Horticulus Slumulux base. Mr. Snails goes on here. Actually, I think it's like this. He goes on there like that. But either way, that went together pretty well. So I like the detail and I like the composition of this, and I definitely like the OG-ness, you know, to the old Wraith models. Not sure how they play, but I'm not too worried about that because they're just cool models, and they compare pretty big to the Necron Overlord. Of course, they're on a 50 mil base, and he's on a 40, and poor old Necron Warrior, still wondering why everything in this army is so much bigger than them. But what if it was one guy with 6 guns? Why don't you just let me do the thinking here, genius? One of the best lines from one of the great movies out there. So we got the Hexmark Destroyer. The little Necron with 6 guns. Kind of crazy. Who knew? This kit is $35 like we were talking about, and let's see. Boom, 1 sprue. So we got 1 of the typical character sprues. Of course, it's, you know, 2 of the Habsy sprues right there. And That's a lot of detail work, and they got detail on both sides, so you are going to need to trim down the flash on this, unfortunately. And he's got a terrain piece right there. Oh, he's got 3 legs. 6 arms and 3 legs. Who would have thunk it? Let's take a look at the instructions. Oh, so no base size, but I think he's a 50. So torso goes together, and then it starts getting weird with the arms. And I love when they give you these side shots right here, so you can kind of try to figure out what they're trying to tell you over here, because that's not super helpful. But then when you see it here, that might be even more helpful. It looks like just a random arm with gun, and then you attach the wire for the gun and a whole rest of the arm with the gun with the wire. So you're basically making an arm with a gun with a wire for each one of these in various segments, it looks like. Okay. Let's not skip ahead. And then over here, his chest plate goes on, and you're still adding more wires. Choice of head right here. Obviously, we're gonna use. I mean, if you got 6 guns, I feel like you need 6 eyes. That just goes without saying. So you gotta have 6 eyes for 6 guns. And over here, it looks like the legs all go together. And it's gonna be a decently challenging build with those wires and all those angles and things. And then last but certainly not least, 1 complete arm. Oh, so this is when they sneak in the 6 arms. So you got 4 arms up to here, okay. And then they're like, oh, by the way, there's 2 more arms. So there's that one sneaks on, and then this one sneaks on. It looks like in the middle arm slot. And then a little piece of terrain, which has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the model. So you could feel free to glue them down to any base you want, because you don't actually have to have that piece. Huh, interesting. Okay, well, let's see how easy the man with 6 arms really is. So it turns out he's not super challenging to build, but you do have to kind of, refer back to the instructions quite a bit, because the instructions aren't super well laid out, but you can kind of follow along and get the idea. So the wires, all of that is separate, like I was saying, and then they kind of sneak on those middle arms, which are right here at the very end, and they all lock into these top slots right here. So, and then this one kind of is off, just like he's kind of getting ready to whip that one around. And this one's already fired. So it's like he's kind of like in rapid fire, like a Cable comic book or something like that, or Deadpool, or one of them too. Those scamps, those Marvel scamps. But either way, I like it. Definitely went with the 6 eyes, for 1 for each gun. And you can see from the terrain piece, you don't actually need that. So, feel free to not use it or put it in your bits box and kind of use it later. But overall, no real gotchas. It just goes together. You just have to be kind of on top of it. And, you're going to have a little bit of flash and sprue to kind of trim down. How does he compare to other miniatures? Well, you've got your Ophydian Destroyer that's on the same size, 50 mil base, way, way, way much taller, but that's not super surprising, I suppose. And then you've got your Overlord, which is roughly the same size, give or take, because he's a head robot man's. And then you've got your Scorpec Destroyer Lord Duder, and he definitely towers over most. He's on a 60, actually, I think, so that's kind of crazy. And then you've got, yet again, lowly Necron Warrior, wondering why literally he's the smallest dude in this army. Well, I guess not Scarabs. Yay, I'm bigger than Scarabs. So overall, that's kind of the rest of the Necron release, bringing up the rear. Thank you very much for watching our unbox and build of, oh gosh, what do we even do? The Ophydian Destroyers, the Convergence of Dominion, and of course, the 6-armed man, the Hexmark Destroyer himself. So that is it for this one. Don't forget, you can always get your hobbies for less from dicehead.com, Amazon, or hopefully your local retailer. But before you jump to their sites, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.